About Cars, a podcast for car enthusiasts and the people who love them.
Hello, this is The Thing About Cars, coming to you as usual from Strongbox West in Atlanta, Georgia. The skies have finally cleared, and it's a windy but sunny and beautiful day outside today. Around the table we have
Ben
and
Beka.
And joining us again after some time is
Andrew.
Andrew, what's going on with you guys these days?
Still busy in the shop, working on all kinds of projects.
We do have new equipment. We have acquired 4 new microphones, and in case we leave this in here, there's going to be a small learning curve. So please, our listening audience, tell us what we're doing right and wrong with these new mics. If you can hear us okay, or if something we need to tweak. We do have a mixer. We're currently actually not using it, just patching things straight into the recorder. But the last time you were here, Andrew, you had a friend, Roman, with you.
Yes.
And he's moved on.
Yeah, he actually, through working with me at the shop, he actually got hired on at Firestone as a senior tech over there, which they could pay him way more than I could, and he's a good kid, and he deserves to have that good job. So,
was he an intern with you?
No, he was actually just a friend that I had known, and he wanted to learn on cars, and I was like, yeah, we can teach you. So he just came in, and eventually we just started working together so much, I started calling him an apprentice.
Cool.
And that kind of started right at the beginning of my business, and here I am 3 years later, and now I have actual student interns from Gwinnett Tech, actually, people coming in and learning from me.
I hear Gwinnett Tech has a pretty good program.
They do. I actually went through there and got my degree from them, and now going back and taking some other people under my wing and teaching them some. It's just a neat little way that worked out, the circle. Cool. Going in, not learning, not knowing anything, and then becoming a technician where I was so good. I was working for a BMW over there in Loganville, MB, and then starting my own shop, and now I'm helping people who want to do the same thing accomplish that same goal. So I like the way it worked out.
Cool. Well, we'll have to have Roman back at the table and give him a hard time some other day.
Yeah.
Right.
But I wrote up on the board Phantom Works, and that's the first thing that I want to talk about today. Phantom Works is I guess, still a show that you can see on Motor Trend, the Motor Trend channel, and they've stopped production.
Huh.
So, and this kills me because Phantom Works was my favorite show among all these, automotive shows that are out there. People love various. But for some reason, I liked Phantom Works more than all the others, and it's bumming me out that he's no longer in production. And I read the website. They actually had a description of, Dan himself wrote a reason of why he went off the air, and I was kind of surprised in that doing the television show really changed the way his actual shop worked. He said that once they started doing an actual television show, that staff turnover went up tenfold, that he and his wife by the end were in debt to producers, I guess, by upwards of like $1 million, that people would come out of the woodwork demanding money from them. There were a number of factors that led up to the decision, including things like what he called radio wars, that in the shop, whenever they were doing the filming, that everyone in the shop had to actually turn off their radios, which of course is a good way to make anybody angry. But the thing I appreciated about the show was that they were mostly transparent about some of the work that they did. They didn't hide how much time it took to finish a car, and they didn't hide the price tags. They would say, this is month number 9 for this particular car, and then in the end they would hand over the sheaf of papers with the invoice information, all that on it, and this work cost you X number of hours at $400 an hour or whatever it is he was charging. And so that part was actually really interesting to me, that they were mostly transparent about the things that other shows didn't get to show. So I don't know why I'm complaining, but
no, that's an interesting point. I mean, I have, of course, the YouTube channel still going, and having a production crew in the shop is definitely, it's in the way, and you do have to, if you're listening to music in there, you do have to, all the technicians have to turn it down and whatnot, and it just gets a lot. But I can only imagine on such a grander scale. I mean, he's a much bigger shop than I am, and having much more high-end cars in there, it's definitely, it's got to add a whole lot of stress.
Yep. The other thing that surprised me was the notion that people would simply come after him for money just because he was now allegedly famous.
Doesn't shock me.
No?
No, it doesn't surprise me at all either.
Well, it doesn't stop me from wanting to do a TV show called The Thing About Cars.
Yeah.
Hey, I think we should do it.
We should do it. We need to figure that out. So we occasionally ask the listeners out there if they have ideas of what we should put up on television, and a few things do float to the surface. But for now, we've taken the next step in our evolution. We got these new mics. We found a rust bucket that we're not. We need to think twice about buying that. We want to make a mobile recording studio.
You missed what I was calling the truck, though, if you didn't see the...
What was it?
The docs thing. I put something on the calendar. Well, TTAC and then a little O. So it looked like it said taco, but TTAC for the thing about cars. So it was like taco truck.
T-taco truck. I like it. Cool. Lego Mustang. Ben, what's that all about?
Well, Lego have come out with this Mustang kit. It makes I believe it's a 67. It looks a lot better than a lot of previous Lego kits in that it has smooth surfaces on top instead of little bumps everywhere.
So this is not one of the ones that I have then, but you said it was bigger, right?
This is new. It's about, it's going to be about a foot long, I think, when assembled, yeah.
'Cause I have 2 Lego Mustangs, and what gave it away was the bumpy.
Right.
They're still the classic, even though there's some specialty molded ones, but they're maybe about yay big, maybe twice the size of a Matchbox. So
now this one's about 12 inches long, and you can still tell it's Lego. It just doesn't have a whole lot of bumps on top.
Hold on, I gotta hit Google here.
And it's about 1,500 pieces, a little shy of that. Retails for $149, and it contains options. You can put nitrous on it. You can put a supercharger on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like, I haven't bought Legos, since, well, I don't know when, but I'm thinking I need to get one of these.
Heck yeah. We should get each other the same thing for our birthdays.
Yeah.
So, Ben, what'd you get me? Well, the same thing I got you.
There are other models, at least in the smaller one like I have. I know there's a Camaro, there's, I believe, a Porsche. I don't remember all the other ones. I'm focused on one, but this I gotta...
I saw a Lego Technic Series McLaren, I think, in some mechanics shop last week. The box was kind of on a shelf. I don't know how long ago that came out.
A McLaren.
Yeah, that was at that shop that you and I visited.
Yes.
Yeah, he had it kind of among all this stuff.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. So we need to get one of these for Beka anyway, or at least you'll probably have it ready to go by the time we sit down for recording again next time.
Possibly. First I have to find it.
Now it's time for our Thing About Cars moment of trivia. We really do need to find a better name for this, don't we? The trivia thing. So
the thing about trivia.
The question is simply, and we'll ask the question, of course, nobody shout out an answer, and then we'll answer it as we close the episode. What does TVR, the car company, stand for? TVR. Does it stand for Total Vehicle Revolution? Does it stand for Trevor? Does it stand for Television Racing? Or does it stand for Trained Vehicle Riders? Ben is smiling, and Andrew's smiling, and Becca's like looking up Legos.
I'm looking at Mustangs.
All right, cool. So that's the trivia question for the day. Next topic up on the board is, Beka, tell us about Chevy Volt production.
Well, Chevy Volt, and it's one that I've brought up in the past. For some reason, I had seen a list where Holden, it looked like, had some sort of involvement with it, but apparently that's not the case. Apparently, the Volt is produced in Detroit, but they are officially ending production of the Volt. It being one of the original hybrids that came out before the craze or popularity, what have you. The automaker, they're citing that the factory is going to be closing as one of the reasons to stop production, but then they made a separate announcement saying the factory is going to remain open and it's going to produce its other cars, including the Impala and the Cadillac CT6.
Yeah, they gave the CTS and the Impala a reprieve.
Yeah, so I mean, their explanation is, it's closing. Oh, but wait, we'll keep it open for these other ones. And obviously the person who wrote the article is a little miffed about it because he says they're going to continue pumping out pollution machines. So he sounds a bit unhappy. So the poor Volt's going away. But one of the things that I wanted to point out, they're saying because there's still inventory available going into the dealerships, that there are some apparently amazing, I don't see the numbers, but apparently amazing price markdowns on these. So if somebody wants to get a new hybrid, check it out, something like that, there might be some good prices on Volts right now.
I know the second generation Volt didn't sell very well, not as well as the first generation.
Right.
Yeah. So that may have something to do with it.
Well, I think that sales is definitely what's killing it off. Is GM is kind of suburban Silverado, these big vehicles that they were selling really well, and because of CAFE regulations, they were required to sell much smaller, more fuel efficient cars just to meet that corporate average fuel economy. And now that those regulations are being loosened and the car company can focus on their bread and butter, they're just cutting out these cars that they don't really need to produce.
They also have the Bolt now, the Volt and the Bolt, just to be very confusing.
Well, that first generation Volt had a following. that the
first
second one
generation
doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that it's not a good car. I'm saying we were
Right,
just
no.
talking about their sales,
Right,
that they were
right.
down and they really just want to focus on their things. And the Impala, as you mentioned, is still going to be in that factory. That's a police car. I've also seen, the school systems around here use them as their cars as well.
Right.
So
They
with
seem to
that,
be going towards Dodge lately.
A lot of Impalas in rental fleets, too. I've
right.
driven a lot of them lately.
And with that being such a wide used car, it
Yeah.
makes sense that they would want to make more of those and less of the olds.
Right.
I
That
drove
does
one
make
last
sense.
week, in fact.
I mean, I would happily drive old. Maybe I should go check out some of these discounts.
Maybe.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm not insulting the car at all. I'm
Well,
just
and-
saying they're probably following their market.
To dovetail onto that, there is also now something like a 7-month inventory of Corvettes on dealer lots.
I've heard that too, that the Corvette isn't selling as well as they would prefer.
Yeah, well, I think part of it too is that there are theories about why the inventory is high, and some of the theories have to do with the mid-engine Corvette that may or may not be coming out soon. And some of the folks are thinking, well, they're trying to just get all the front-engine ones out they can, so that they'll have an inventory during the shutdown, during the switchover in production, which will be more complicated than most switchovers, I think.
Huh. Why do you think it'll be more complicated?
Well, because instead of well, maybe not, but the engine's going to the other end of the car, and probably some other things are happening in the chassis assembly too. So
I'm hearing you say that, and I'm wondering if the user cares, right? I mean, are we talking
Right.
about the driver, or are we talking about the folks who work on the car?
Oh, I don't know. We haven't seen the thing yet. I mean, everybody thought it was going to be unveiled at the Detroit show a couple weeks ago, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
So there's still no official word whether it's coming or not, but the test mules have been spotted in the wild all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's coming at some point, but nobody knows when, and nobody knows if it's going to completely replace the front-engine Corvette or be alongside it.
Interesting.
Yeah, Chevy's being very tight-lipped about it.
So Chevy's purposefully pumping out Corvettes, or are people simply not buying them in anticipation of the next one?
That's what nobody, at least not me, seems to know.
Right.
But there may be some deals available on those too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if they have a surplus of them, supply and
Yeah.
demand, it only makes sense they would drop the price.
Right.
Sure.
You know what we should do is I should get a job.
Of course, on the other hand, the other part of this too, though, is that used Corvettes are cheap,
Yeah.
so they have to compete with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, cheap relative how? You're talking about
Yeah, that's what I
these
was
newer
thinking.
ones coming down? I've seen some of these older Corvettes sell for pretty premium, really.
Depends on what it is, where it is.
You're
that
talking
kind of
C4,
thing.
C5 Corvette?
We talk.
Well, I know a guy out west who got, I forget which generation it was, but not terribly old for 13,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's kind of like a reverse bell curve going on with it.
Right.
They depreciate right away, and it takes them forever to come back in value. But once
sure.
they do, it just keeps going up.
I think that's right. I mean, I know the 80s era Corvettes, and forgive me, I'm not as up on my generations with Corvettes as I should be, but some of the 80s era Corvettes, no one likes them. They're sort of the redheaded stepchild of the Corvette family.
Right.
But the ones that came after them are affordable. and
From
people seem to like them.
From the mid-'90s up to the present, there's pretty good reliability, too, so they stay in the ecosystem.
Yes.
They may trade down levels, but they stick around.
Right. So if I actually get a job again, maybe I'll go buy a Volt and an old Corvette.
There you go.
Well, and much like other cars, like
yeah.
the Mustang, they all kind of do that. They dip down, they take
Right.
a while.
Right.
Right now, if you've seen the prices of Fox chassis,
Mhm.
which is 79 to 93,
Yep.
some of those are costing a lot more than what I paid for them way back when.
No kidding.
yeah.
But even
Yeah.
Mustang 2s, which
Sure.
are the red-headed stepchild of Mustang, even those you'll pay a
Yeah.
good amount
Hmm.
for the Mustang 2s, especially if you find a Cobra one.
Well, I
King
think
Cobra.
that there's a trend going on with that as the older, more classic cars get priced out, the people still want that name, so they buy the next newest generation. So, like in the
Oh, yeah.
truck market, the C10s, the square bodies of the 70s and 80s, got so expensive that no one could afford them anymore, and the people who wanted them would still be able to get a square-looking truck from 88 to 99.
Yep.
And now those
yeah.
prices are skyrocketing. I actually own a 90s Chevy truck, and it was just parked in the front yard. I don't have it for sale or anything, and I've had two people stop and offer me a significant amount of money for these trucks.
Wow.
And I have a really good example. The paint's clean and everything. I
Sure.
take really good care of it. But, I mean, it's not for sale anywhere, and two people have stopped and asked me if they could buy it. This-
People have done that with my Mustang. People will
Right.
just, if they see a car in your driveway They'll definitely do that.
The Spree I used to have too. Somebody left a card on it one day that said, "I will buy your car," tucked in the window.
Right, and I think that, we're going to see that with the Corvettes and the Mustangs too, that as, the 2004s and things, as they start falling out and then as they start becoming more desirable, because the older generation becomes unreachable by the average person.
Mm-hmm.
They just get priced out, so then we'll buy the next thing. I think that's just how it's going to continue.
Right.
Sure.
People look at my Mazda and they don't offer me anything for it. they pay me to leave, actually.
Aww. Poor Mazda.
Poor Mazda. The Mazda needs some work, and we talked about this last time. I may actually get rid of it.
Uh-oh.
Given the choice, I think it's time to. And I'll happily buy another one of the same generation.
Go look at the vault.
A little bit. Yeah, I should.
Well, there
I
you go.
need that
Yeah.
income again. The job that I had doing the technical writing thing did not work out. I just couldn't do the thing. Yeah. So yeah, it's time for the next iteration, next job.
Bigger and better.
Bigger and better is right.
Moving on to greener pastures.
Well, I was reminded of many reasons why I'd like to avoid the corporate sector, and let's just leave it at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can say a lot about the corporate
Yeah.
sector. By the way, I found the Mustang.
You did.
The Lego one, correct?
Yes, there is so much to say about this.
Ben put it
So
on.
much. It goes on sale March 1st, and it retails for $149.99.
Can you do an advance order on it or something?
It's not saying that so far.
But that's
But-
only like a week away.
That's true. It is
Yeah.
late February here.
Right, but it's extremely detailed. It
But-
does say you can get it in any color you want as long as that's blue with white stripes. You can get, apparently, I guess it comes in the box, different license plates. But I know nobody can see this. You can take off
Yes.
the hood,
Yes.
and there's an actual engine in there.
That's
It's-
amazing.
What
It
do
is
they call this?
amazing.
The Expert Series or?
Everyone needs to choke up on their mic, get it to within like 3 inches on their face. Yeah.
Hello.
That's it. Much better.
From its creator line.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, where are the specs? Here we go. When assembled, the Mustang stands almost 4 inches high, nearly 6 inches wide, and more than 13 inches long.
Okay, so you were pretty dead on with your
Yeah, I mean,
information
Such
earlier.
a
I read
joke
the
to
same
me.
stuff too. I just didn't remember sharply.
No,
It's 1,470 pieces. It's gorgeous.
It's bigger and better than any Lego Mustang you've got, Becca. I think you need to put it in your garage.
Well, it would go in the Mustang room.
In the Mustang room.
It's
exactly.
not
Right.
quite big enough for the
Right.
garage.
Build a Lego garage for it.
Built exactly.
Oh, yes. I'm all
there's
over that.
there's an idea.
There you go.
With the roll up door and everything.
Yeah.
You got to go for it.
You have
Don't
to do
laugh
it now.
at me, but I actually have some of those toy garages.
Yeah.
You know, when you can get the toy
Really?
gas pumps and the
Yeah.
toy jack stands and the toy toolboxes.
Oh, those are awesome.
And then some of my out of the box matchboxes live in my toy
That's
garage.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I know, I'm crazy.
So what we should do then is have a Lego party at your house and do a little time lapse
Yes.
film of building the garage and the Lego thing itself.
There we go. Yes, that's.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm away from the mic again. Yeah, that's
No.
that could be one of our videos.
We should do that.
There you go. You just found a video right
Put it
there.
up on
We're gonna
Mustang
do
Room.
Lego World Mustang Edition.
Yes. Well, I posted some things on Instagram way back when with the smaller Mustang ones. So thank you for letting us know. I'm earmarking that.
Becca, last topic for the day. Tell us about exploding demons.
Whoa.
Well, I think they oversold it using the word exploding. They mention it several times through the article. There's a video attached.
Wait. What article?
Well, this article hold on, here we go. This one, see, papers from the news desk.
Right.
Dodge investigating video showing pair of Dodge Demons exploding on dragstrip. And this is coming to you from The Drive.
Okay.
So it's probably an attention-grabbing headline. They keep referring to it as exploding, but apparently there was a Dodge Demon event last month in Texas where a lot of the ones showed up were stock. There were a handful of modded ones that showed up. It was just the fun take your demon to the track day. And according to this, what essentially is happening is the rear end is falling out of them. And I need to post a link. There is a video showing 2 of the demons with the rear diff / parts of the axle just dropping at launch.
So this is a bone stock demon. These are
4
people
of the
who
ones that had this quote unquote catastrophic failure were stuck. The one modded one, while it was modded in the engine, had bone stock rear diff and had extra bracing. one of the companies, Dodge is investigating, but not making any comments at this time. Someone was saying, well, maybe it needs extra bracing, what have you. But this one modded one already had extra bracing on the rear. So there's a lot of going back and forth. They're not exploding. It's not the fireball you envision when you see the headline. But whatever happened just in this limited situation has Dodge taking notice and investigating it. So heads up for the demons and the Hellcats and what have you, that they're still trying to figure it out. They're blaming all kinds of things. Well, bad roads give micro fractures in the rear diff, and then they get on a good surface, and that is actually one page in this article is them discussing micro fractures and all this.
It's funny how this only happens on a drag strip though, and not out in the wild.
Well,
out in the wild.
I mean, that's just, I haven't even actually heard of this until right now, but when you think of how much power is in a Dodge Demon, when you have to take all that engineering into account, and then it's the rear end that's blowing up, it's not actually the engine, which I'm pretty sure they spent most of their budget for that build on.
Well, and that could be part of the problem,
and,
but
I think that's a common thing with Dodge is they really build on their advertising of we're going to get this number of horsepower, we're going to get this much torque, we're going to have this much power, and then they kind of build the rest of the car to hopefully contain that power.
Yep.
And that's what I think has happened here is that the Demon is just so powerful that it is just going to rip the rear end out once you get on a good enough surface with good enough tires to actually hold it.
And that's what they're saying.
That it's going to rip it apart. And when you're talking about extra bracing, that might be the solution is just we need to weld some more stuff in here to hold this in place because it's just going to come out.
I wonder, though, because back when I was messing about with Honda's Preludes, I was thinking about doing an engine swap on that old Prelude. And the common knowledge was, okay, now you're going to get ready to replace axles at least once a year because the new engine was completely overworking the stock axles.
Right, and that's the thing. If it's only happening under, extreme torque and stress on the drag strip and not in the wild, like you were saying, on the regular roads, if it's only happening in that situation, it's got to be from that burst of power, and it's got to be so hard to engineer for it. I am glad they're acknowledging it, though, because some manufacturers could just bury it and say, oh, well, you're on the drag strip, that's your problem.
Right, they would blame it on how you're using it. They love to do that, even if something's capable of it, even if they...
The fact that they're taking this into account, even though they're blaming microfractures and whatnot, the fact that they acknowledge it at all, I have to give them a little bit of credit.
Absolutely.
As long as they continue to acknowledge it and complete the investigation, it's something I would like to follow up on and see if there's any end result or if it disappears. But similar to what you're saying in Mustang, at least similar, you hear people talking about converting over to an automatic from a stick, and normally what they do is they take the automatic and convert it because it's got the stronger torque box welds on them for the extra bracing. They were having issues with the drive shaft on the drive
I'll have
strip.
to look into that.
Yeah.
That sounds like quite the engineering feat, trying to convert an automatic or a manual to an automatic.
When you want to start with the automatic, right? I mean, a lot of people say they want their 5-speed or they want to have the automatic at the drag strip.
Okay.
But mostly what they tell you is start with the automatic. It's got the better bracing, basically.
So what's the going price tag on a Dodge Demon these days anyway?
That I do not know.
It's probably a lot.
No,
It's probably a lot.
Yeah.
They were starting in the 40s, like mid 40s, and that's for their V6, and then you got to go up from there.
But even then, it's like, the basic Challenger is probably in the 40s.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The base models were in the 40s, I believe, last time I noticed.
Yeah.
Well, when you think about what you're getting, though, is, 800 plus horsepower. You're talking supercar numbers 10 years ago.
Yep.
And now you can afford it for less than $100,000.
Right.
And when you think about that, that's pretty impressive.
Yep.
That they're trying to, it almost sounds like we're just talking about Corvettes, that they're trying to make their version of a Corvette. They're trying to get a supercar out there with that much power and that much handling. And they're getting somewhere. I don't know where they're getting, but they're getting somewhere.
Right. So they over-engineered the front end, and it sounds like the back end needs to catch up.
Well, yeah, that's what
Yep. Interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that because, owning a Demon would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. Especially, the way they've marketed it, it's very impressive.
Yep. If I got a job, I probably still could not afford that car.
I think, though, that the Demon really hurt the Hellcat market because
I agree.
they have the base model Challenger, and then you have the Hellcat, which has become the middle child because now you've got the Demon that's so much more powerful. I mean, who's your market for the Hellcat now?
And I've heard it's in really high demand. I've heard the Demon is in such high demand that true aficionados are having a hard time getting them.
Right. And it's just I feel like they just made these 3 cars that are really good,
Yep.
and then they just hurt that one in the middle.
Right.
I haven't heard a
middle
Hellcat
child.
rear end blow up though, so I don't know. Maybe they are still worth something.
But, they need to pay attention just in case until
Right.
we have some sort of idea where is the failure coming from. I still think that they need to work on the stance of that car. There's something, it would be a really good car if it's something just visually looks off with the stance. It either needs to be a little bit wider or a little bit squatter. I don't know. Personal opinion.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Shall we do the trivia thing and wrap things up?
Sure.
Okay, so what does TVR stand for? Any guesses?
Well, the fact that I don't actually know this kind of amazes me.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised too. I thought if anybody at the table knows this, it would be Ben.
I'm hoping for Trevor.
That's kind of what I'm thinking, actually, though.
It's not me. I don't know the answer to this one. I'm not even
Wait,
going to
repeat
try.
the question.
Sure.
Refresh our memories.
So the question is simply, what does TVR, the car company, stand for? Does it stand for Total Vehicle Revolution, Trevor, Television Racing, or Trained Vehicle Riders?
I just hope it's Trevor. I like that one.
In fact, it is Trevor.
Wow. Okay.
So the
All right.
name of the company came after the name of it, the creator of the company, Trevor Wilkinson, and they just took the T, the V, and the R out of Trevor, and that was the name of the company. So
Yeah.
there you have it.
So
And-
you win that one then.
Well, Ben was hoping it was Trevor also.
Yeah.
We know that ties in with the Demons and Hellcats thing because a lot of early TVRs used Chrysler V8s in them.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Huh.
There's another
know.
piece of history I just learned.
Right.
On a total side note, people like demons. I would rather own a Shelby Voodoo. As far as names go, if you say, what car do you have? You've got Hellcat, you've got Demon. Wouldn't you love to say Voodoo?
Voodoo. I drive
I've
the
got a
Voodoo.
Voodoo.
I'm trying to pull up our blog on thethingaboutcars.com because on our blog we have a short post about the car shows that we have coming up, and I want to mention those real quick before we go home. All right, so before we call it quits today, I want to mention that we're going to 3 upcoming car shows. On Saturday, March 2nd, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., we will be over at Lillian Webb Park in Norcross for Italian Car Day. And on March 30th is the Brookhaven Cherry Blossom Festivals. Our friend Greg Barner has one of his C5 car shows happening over at the Brookhaven Cherry Blossom Festival. Please come see us there. And the one event I think we're all looking forward to is the Summit Racing Equipment Atlanta Motorama, currently set for Saturday, April 27th and the 28th at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Still working out details on what we'll be able to do there at the show, but you can be sure we're going to be walking around and just totally ogling all the very cool cars and hopefully talking to the very cool people. They did ask us to specifically say, though, that if you're going to go show your car, that pre-registration for Motorama closes on March 25. So before March 25, registration is $35 a vehicle. After the 25th, registration jumps to $50, and we will look forward to seeing you there. Anything else, you guys?
I think that's about it.
Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for being part of the Thing About Cars family. We welcome your support via Patreon and our tip jar. You can find those details on our website. And be safe out there. We will see you soon.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.